Hello everyone, welcome to the video. Wolfie here from the Rage Traders, and today is a happy NRL day. Vegas, baby. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but for my case alone, I hope that these fullbacks don't pop off in Vegas because it might hurt me a bit, but we'll wait and see. I've got a bit of a strategy that I'm specifically doing. Now, whether this is going to absolutely hurt me and rinse me, time will tell. But I like to call this consistency over ceiling, and that's what I'm going with my team. What you are going to see now is my team set in stone, unless there's like a crazy cheapie that comes out of nowhere, or one of my players obviously is put onto like the interchange bench from starting, or they're just out completely. Things like that, you obviously know. But before we get into the team reveal, Rage Traders 1K League, it is still up for entry up until round 7. It closes then. We have 1313 entries at the moment. And if you want to join to be in the running for $1,000 in cold hard cash, 739499. That's 739499 for the code to join up. Get in, free money, free little competition, and good luck. All right, here it is, guys. Let's get into it. Now, you've most probably heard some news, but Todd Payton came out and basically said, Reed Marnie, I want him to be an 80-minute hooker. That's what we got him here for. So he's just in the team, $418,100. Brandon Smith is still going to sit in my bench at hooker 2, just because I don't want to sort of muddle around with it. And if Reed Marnie can sort of sit there, do a bit of a job, and me not have to put too much money in, then I'm happy with that. Now, I know a lot of this preseason I've talked about Grant and Brayley, and I do still think Grant and Brayley are both great picks, but with the specific strategy I'm going for, I'm really just weighing out, I'm just having to sort of go low in the hooker position. So that's exactly what I'm doing. My front row forwards, Payne Haas or Hakeem Haas, Trey Mooney, pretty self-explanatory. I don't really need to go into that too much. Next, a bit of an interesting scenario here. This could and almost most definitely be a swap or a bit of a change, just with one cheapie dropping out from the 2RF, because I have Jesse Colquhoun and Paseka, which is obviously a lot of money. We're looking at about $660,000 just sitting on the bench. So this is going to likely have a bit of a change where someone drops out from the 2RF, Jesse comes down, Miles Martin or maybe a bit of a Nuff comes in, or just someone like a Curtis Morin comes in. But yeah, I definitely want both of these guys in my team. I'm happy with them. I don't think Colquhoun is going to be some crazy dude, but if he can make me 80K, if he can get to about 400,000, I'll be happy with that, and then see you later. All right. So I'm going to give away my strategy. This is what I've decided to go for. Now, because there's been a bump in tackles, because there's been a drawback in try assists, I understand that centers are going to be the be all and end all at one point. There's going to be centers and obviously some fullbacks that exceed very well. And I have spoken about this strategy before, but what I'm going to be doing, and I've decided on this, I've been going back and forth, thinking about it in bed, literally. I've been laying in bed being like, what's my play? And this could be wrong. This could absolutely blow up in my face, but I've always said to you guys, go with your gut, and I'm going with my gut. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, well, I'm going to, lose out on some fullback scoring very well that I won't have. So I'm going very, very heavy on like 2RF, FRF, grindy tacklers that just get the 50 to 60 points, possibly have a chance of going 65, 70, and just having a multitude of those. And hoping that consistency of having a multitude of those players then balances out with the 1 or 2 or 3 fullbacks who we don't know who will be, that actually, might get a 90, might get an 80, might even get 100, but in another week they get a 40. So that's where I'm coming from. So we'll get into my 2RF. My 2RF as it stands, my 2RF is Tino Fa'amasuala'i, Isaiah Yeo, and Toby Couchman, with Fafita in reserves on the bench with Patson and Lasardi. So you're most probably thinking, holy hell, this is a lot. It is a lot. And it's going to get even more bigger down the track in the flex. So this is the game plan I'm going for. Tino, I just think with the Jolliffe injury, I think Titans actually were one of the best teams in the trials in terms of just how they looked. I don't think they're going to be a team. I'm not saying like they're going to be a top 4 team or a top 6 team. I'm just saying they looked a lot more competitive. And the fact that I saw that means that I think that Tino's going to have opportunities on both ends of the field, pardon me, which is great. And he's also just super consistent. I think coming back last season from a really bad injury, and he just came out the way he did. I just want someone that's quite consistent in 2RF, and that's what I'm going for. Now, I will say about this, you're most probably saying, where's Lukey? Where's possibly Hamish Stewart? Where's like Hopgood? What's going on there? This is my plan, and I've always said this to you guys. I'm trying to start high so that I can evaluate if Lukey does look amazing. I'm just going to go down to him from someone who doesn't look as good. Maybe Couchman doesn't start as well. Maybe he's only getting like a 50 or 55, and I'm like, most probably more value in Lukey there. Or maybe it's Tino. Maybe Tino's only getting a 60. That's fine. I'm happy to do that. But to begin with, I'm trying to start high so then I can evaluate Hamish Stewart. I can evaluate Lukey. I can evaluate Hopgood. People like this who are a bit mid-rangey that sometimes we get caught out on. And if we start like with all those 3 or 2 of those 3 and they're both bad or they're both not doing what we're expected, then we get caught out and it's like, how do we make cash? So whereas with this sort of strategy I'm going for, I'm like, okay, let's say all these guys get like 62 each. I'm happy with that. Like I'm getting 186 points around the block from my 2RF. Plus I have Fafita on the bench who's most probably going to be, has a high chance of being a cash maker. I've got less to worry about. Now, if one of these or 2 of these guys do bad, I still have not a lot to worry about because I can go down, make money, and use that to invest into maybe a fullback we might not have thought that it would have been great, or a center that we didn't even really see that would have been great. So that's my kind of thinking with that. So again, Tino Fa'amasulai, Isaiah Yeo, Toby Couchman, Dave Fafita, Patson Lasardi. Now Lasardi can change to someone else. So can Patson. I'm not saying these are the core guys, but all in all, I'm happy with that. I want to see, obviously, the team list, the 1B team list that come through. But for now, that's how it's going to sit. And obviously, any new cheapies that come along, we'll do a separate video for that. Next, Sam Walker, who is my vice captain. Also, Payne Haas, my captain, with Ethan Sanders. Now, the reason I've gone Ethan Sanders is purely just because I don't think Manly looked especially too flash on the defensive side in their trial, even though they didn't have, turbos in. They did have Fogarty in. I just think if Canberra can score 16 points each in that game, 16 to 20 points, or just get a few kicks in, he's going to benefit from that. And look, if I have to switch to Atkinson, I will. But St. George, I'm just a bit worried with their forward pack and defense. But again, I want to go with the goal kicker, and we'll go from there. It's no biggie. Sam Walker, I've sat on this a bit. I've spoken about him so much in the preseason that it's just, I'm just rude not to go with him because I've spoken about him as a pod so much. Again, I put him as a Dally M contention player, and I think he's got a high chance of winning it. And I think he's a great vice captaincy pick. He's the kicker for the Roosters. We know they can score a huge amount of points, and it may not be at the start of the season that happens, but I think Roosters, if you give them a chance in a game to score and you consistently do it, it will be a 40-point plus game. And I'm not saying that's going to happen against the Warriors, not at all. It could be a very close game. It could be 20-12. It could be 20-14. But I think when Roosters score a bit of points, Sam Walker is involved in a lot of it, and that could work out. That could work out. Now, obviously, we need to choose a game that's before the Broncos game because Haas is going to be my captain, likely as others' captain as well. So that's going to be fine, and we'll live with that. Again, my watch list for the 2RF is Hopgood, Helam Lukey, and Hamish Stewart. They're like the three ones. Even Ryan Couchman, they're the big ones that I'm watching. So that could be very interesting to see. But again, with my halves, I'm happy with this, and I'm close enough to get to Cleary if I really, really need to, and he's looking absolutely amazing from Sam Walker. Next, Purdue, Pezzett. I've sat on Purdue because, one, I'm kind of closest to Cameron Munster, but I don't think Cameron Munster is really going to exceed his price tag of about 683 or 88,000 for memory. The reason I've sat on Purdue is, one, I still want to get into, because I don't own Drinkwater, I still want to get into a bit of the Cowboys attack if they actually come out, look really good against Newcastle, win, and put on a bit of a score in Las Vegas. Hopefully I can retain some of the points made from that game. Now, if Purdue looks awful and Cody Walker looks bad, again, I can just drop down to Cody Walker. He's really the only guy that I was looking at and contemplating starting. But also, the reason why I like Purdue over Cody Walker to start with is because there could just be another 5'8" that absolutely starts well. Ezra Mann with the Broncos draw after sort of round 3 could actually be a viable 5'8". There's other players as well that we just maybe think aren't going to be that great, and then they come out and do amazing. A DCE, for example, just anyone. I know the chances are small, but I'd rather have that protection to know that rather than being at a Cody Walker. A 5'8" looks really good, or Cody Walker doesn't look as good as what he did against Manly. Maybe he gets injured. Maybe he just doesn't. They've had some rough games and people expected them to play better and they didn't. And then I've got to try and find 200K or 150K to get back up to someone that's actually more viable. So that's sort of where my head's at. Pezzett, there was actually a part of me that's like, why didn't I just go Purdue Walker and just fade Pezzett? Hope that Pezzett does really, really bad in the opening 5 games for Eels, and then have Walker as a reserve, because I've seen no one talk about that. And then just go down to Pezzett from one of them, whoever looks worse. But I think that's just investing a bit too much into 5'8". All right, wings and centers, honestly, nothing much here different. Farnworth, Iro, Latrell Mitchell, Faymani. I just don't want to go over these guys. I've had Shibasaki in my team for a long time. It was a few days, and I was really sold on him, to be honest with you. But the only thing is, I love where he's at the moment as a player. I love his form, and I love the team he's in. I'm kind of looking and just waiting to see maybe if I can go to him in about round 4, but boy am I scared of watching him. Again, his price tag's pretty high. I think he's about 680 as well, thousand. But for me, I'm just going to sit with Iro. I can drop down to a Shibasaki or another, a Taylor May, someone like that if I want. But I'm just going to stick with this. This is pretty template, this wing centers position, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people are going to have something very similar to this. And the reason I don't have Chester and Setsutu in my center wing 4 is I think I want to go the Melbourne winger. I think it's going to be Hugo Peel or Moses Leo. Out of this, the one thing I don't think I want to have Setsutu as a reserve. So at the moment, I have 3 reserves set. I'm close to putting Chester in. So I think it would be something like this where I just have Chester in and then reserve whoever it is. But again, it's a tough one. We know this little sort of game where choosing who the right person is tough for the cheapies. But yeah, I'm still thinking on this. But again, this has nothing to do with my team reveal, just more like where I'm at with starting and who I'm going to bench and then reserve. All right, next, I have Kinney and Far Logo. Very, very simple template here. Kinney, I just think will make money. I've been close to fading Far Logo, but I'm so scared that Melbourne still come out and put like 24 points on Eels, especially with some of the injuries they have. Addo Carr now, Iongi, I don't know what's happening there. He most really still will be playing for the team, but that's fine. Again, I think they lose a bit of oomph on their left edge, the Eels. I'm still concerned about their defense, although they do look a bit better. Yeah, although Melbourne look a bit worse, I just can't run the risk of Farloga actually coming out, popping 2 tries. So that's something we'll evaluate. And again, Chester's also a good little backup here. If things look sour, maybe we can drop Chester in, get a good center in that looks good. So it's also a nice little play for those that aren't starting with Chester. I like that he can just drop into fullback if need be. Macassini, we don't really need to say much about that. And last but not least, I've got Patrick Carrigan in my flex 2RF FRF, $636,900. So this is where I'm really going big in the 2RF FRF sort of area. I just think with the new scoring system, these guys that get around the tackles a lot, third tackles now, they're all going to be taking the points for that. I think Carrigan is a nice pick. I'm not saying he's the best pick. I think he's a consistent pick, again, going with my strategy. But I also believe that this Broncos team are always going to be in the fight. It's going to be grindy, and that suits Carrigan's play style. And I also think if there was ever a world where Haas did go down, Carrigan's your next man to come up, and he just benefits from that. He is just a typical Supercoach player that gets the points for you, kind of like a Yo. And that's the strategy I'm going for. Talking about, Ponga, I think is great. This is why I've also chosen Carrigan in my flex, because Ponga's making cash going from Carrigan. Let's say Carrigan's only getting 55 or 50 and Ponga comes out looking amazing. I can just go down from Carrigan. I can go down from anyone in the flex really to Ponga. Again, if Drinkwater looks amazing with Jake Clifford there being in the halves now, Purdue set in the centers, I'll be like, easy. I'll just find another 100-ish thousand and do that. So my flex is like my kind of like safety position where I've got the safety points there, but if things look like I need to just go to someone who looks like they're starting the season hot, kind of like Clint Gutherson did last season, who was a bit of a bait pick in some ways. But that's my strategy. That's all I'm trying to give to you. So yeah, I'm not going with 3 fullbacks. I think a lot of content creators and a lot of people are. The reason being, again, just to reiterate, is just because fullbacks have a great ceiling, no doubt, but they also can have a very, very bad floor. And I think this season is going to come down to having the right ceiling players, and I don't want to pick and choose and try and guess who those ceiling players are at the start of the season. And I don't want to get baited into Las Vegas too much. I want to look at it as, the first 5 games as a whole, and I want to look at the teams as a whole. And if I can just balance out my team to have consistent scores to maybe match those fullbacks that are doing well, maybe it's Reece Walsh, who's the one that everyone needs. Again, I can get there. So that's the way I'm thinking about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, but that's how I'm sticking with it, guys. This is the team. I'm set in stone on it, praying that there's going to be no massive changes in team lists, and we'll see how we go. That is it. The final team list. Enjoy the footy, guys. If I can give you any tips whatsoever, is don't make radical changes as it gets closer to the games. Don't just watch Ponga on the TV and you're like, geez, he looks good. If you've had it in your mind that you're not going to start with Ponga, if you've had it in your mind that you're not going to start with Turbo, if you've had it in your mind that you're going to fade Cleary, that you're going to fade Haas, just stick with your gut. And if it didn't work out, at least you stuck with your gut and you work off that. Everyone's going to have mistakes in the start of their round. It's how you bounce back from those mistakes as quick as possible and read what's happening. And also, just to say, we don't know how the scoring is going to look like with the new scoring changes. And that's also why I've gone with this strategy, because I can sort of look at these players and know they're going to make a lot of tackles. I know that they're going to run the ball. I know that they're going to have less errors than maybe what a fullback or a center would have. And with that, I'm like, okay, at least there's a bit of medium ground rather than low floor, high ceiling. I'm just going with, give me what you got, give me your 60, and I'll work on my team after that. Anyway, take care, guys. I hope that all made sense. I hope maybe that helped you, maybe with creating your team, or you're like, this guy's an idiot. Anyway, bye-bye. Love you.